Everybody needs a poopa. That's why we're here to talk about Father of the Bride.
I'm the poopa.
That's actually from the second movie, which really bummed me out when I was watching it.
It's I definitely was waiting for it and then realized it. I honestly realized it as soon as Frank come on the screen.
Okay.
I was like, wait a minute. Oh no. That line's in the second movie. Which is a interesting / weird thing that the second movie was as good,
yes,
I think, as the first. Is. Have we said what we're talking about yet? Or is everyone confused?
It will be in the episode description, but they might be confused.
We're talking about Father of the Bride.
We should probably also introduce ourselves.
Yes.
I'm Cameron Grimsley.
Yes. I'm Sarah LaRae Gillum.
Okay.
I have a lot of names.
Yeah.
It's confusing for me.
Okay.
I have a lot of aliases. Shooter's Mommy.
Yeah.
That's another one.
And we're here to talk about the 1991 film starring Steve Martin, Father of the Bride.
Yeah, the 1991 film.
Yes. Which
we talked about in the last episode. Neither of us really realized that was actually a remake.
Yeah.
Did you watch the original one?
No, I've never seen the original.
Maybe we should have done that.
I will get to it at some point.
Yeah.
I added it to the list.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Somebody said Elizabeth Taylor was in it.
I just know I saw it starred Spencer Tracy.
Oh, so, I don't know who that is. Okay. Isn't it crazy how movie stars are like, everyone knows your name, but then like one generation later, no one knows who you are.
It's weird.
Like, it's a very fleeting thing. But if you think about it, only real historical figures, which that's not necessarily true, because if you think about it, movies have only been around for the last, 100?
20, so yeah, about
100 years.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Maybe that will be a part of history. Maybe those names will live longer than that.
There are, like, Chaplin people still know, but not... Probably people know him, but how many people have actually seen a Charlie Chaplin film?
Right.
Probably
not many. Yeah. You would think in the age of the internet, though, maybe more people will see
streaming because it's all
movies
available. Yeah.
I used to watch Turner Classic Movies when I was a kid a lot. I remember thinking, this is weird. I used to love Doris Day movies.
I don't think I've seen a Doris Day movie.
I just love musicals.
Yeah.
Are there any musicals we can talk about on the podcast?
Is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers another musical?
I have no idea. I've not seen that one. I'd have to watch it.
I think it is. It's on the list.
Anyway, so Father of the Bride.
Yes. So the synopsis from IMDb. George and Nina Banks are the parents of young, soon-to-be-wed Annie. George is a nervous father, unready to face the fact that his little girl is now a woman. The preparations for the extravagant wedding provide additional comic moments. Which is odd phrasing.
Yes.
But that's...
Which, and if you don't know, this is the first time you ever listen to the podcast, Cameron and I are both in the wedding industry.
Yeah.
I'm a wedding photographer.
I'm a wedding videographer.
So we kind of have an interesting, I think, point of view or perspective on any movie that has a wedding in it.
Absolutely.
Especially weddings that are movies that are very wedding focused, like this movie, for example.
Because this movie, like, that's one reason I like that we chose to do this one first, because it's all about, the whole plot is basically planning the wedding.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing else. It's not like a rom-com with a wedding at the end. It is all about the wedding.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely, it's a great movie. I mean, Steve Martin.
It's amazing.
How do you go wrong?
Again, talking about movie stars that people probably don't know in this generation.
Do you think people don't know Steve Martin?
I mean, when's the last
that crushes my soul.
Like,
yeah, but he's a legend. I'm judging people. I'm like, if you... I mean, of course, I also love SNL.
To play his banjo. And...
Oh my god. What is the name of his band? Shoot.
I can look it up real
They
quick.
came to Chattanooga not long ago. Shoot, what was the name of it? Not Ranger Canyon, Ranger... Hang on, I'm asking Dr. Google.
Yeah.
Steve Martin's band. But I just love him. I love SNL.
Yes.
So, and then like The Jerk. I mean, he's just and Roxanne. Like all those movies are so good. He's just funny. He does. I've been seeing ads for him doing Steep Canyon Rangers. That's the name of it. I've been seeing ads for. He did a master class about comedy writing. I'm like, I kind of want to take that, even though I don't.
Those master classes are good though.
I want to take the Annie Leibovitz one. I think that would be interesting.
I've got the Aaron Sorkin one for screenwriting. It's very interesting. Yes.
A lot of people I know they have taken. It's not that expensive.
It's like, really not for what all you get.
Yeah, like because you can do like a yearly subscription and get all of them.
Yeah.
And it's like I want to say $199 or something. If you people can hear that, that's my husband hiccuping or yawning or something in the other room. He's got headphones on, so we can say whatever we want about him. We won't do that. So back to the movie. Yes.
Okay. It was released. Like I said, remake of a 1950 film written by Francis Goodrich and Albert Hackett, directed by Vincent Minnelli, starring Spencer Tracy. It was.
I thought that was. We need to go watch that one because I would imagine that it would have an entirely different. Because marriage back then.
Yeah.
Meant something entirely different than what it meant in the 90s, which has a different meaning than it does today, even.
Yeah.
I would stretch. But
it'll be interesting, like, time capsule.
Yeah. Well, it's like The Star is Born. You know, that movie's been done, like, this is the fourth one. Yeah. And so, and every time they've done it, they've changed it a little bit to sort of fit the narrative of the generation.
Yeah.
Like, the original one, I think, was, like, about a movie star. And then in the 70s is when they changed it to, like, a rock star or, like, a music person. But back then, when it was originally done, I want to say it was the 40s.
There's, like, because there's the Barbra Streisand one, there's a Judy Garland one, and there's one even before.
Before that. And back then, you know, music and movies were synonymous. Yeah. Like, you know, you didn't have a movie that didn't have music in it.
Right.
Like a musical type thing. So, anyway, what was your favorite part of Father of the Bride?
The hot dog scene is my favorite.
Yeah, where he
it's
just
my
loses
absolute
it.
favorite part. It is, I have quote, George Banks says no. I will quote that to people, and they will look at me like I'm crazy, and I don't care. It's hilarious to me.
But it's an excellent point that he makes.
Yes.
I mean, about the hot dog situation. Every time I have bought hot dogs in the past 32 years, I have thought about that scene.
Yes.
Like, even though the movie hasn't been out that long. But it's been out as long as I've been buying hot dogs, and I always think about that scene when I buy hot dogs.
That was like... I wrote down a couple of notes of just like, before I rewatched it for this, I was like, what do I remember about this movie? Hot dog scene was number one.
Yeah. I remember the house.
Yes.
Like before I rewatched it, I was like, I distinctly remember how amazing that house looked and how that was like. I heard recently, I feel like it burned down.
With all those fires?
Yeah, I think I heard that it was an actual house that existed, and now it doesn't anymore.
Because that house was also a big plot point in the sequel.
Yeah.
Because they sell it to Eugene Levy and then get it back.
I also remember like just her relationship with her dad always stuck with me because I was kind of a daddy's girl too, and so. That stuck. And then also what stuck out to me is the fact that he owns like a shoe company, which is one of those strange, like sometimes when I watch movies, I think, well, that is an odd detail.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, why would you choose that? Because it doesn't contribute to the main plot or any side plot in any way.
It's just, it's an interesting job. And that's the thing, like, I guess you just gotta give him some job.
Yeah, I mean, it might as well be something.
There is one line, and I noted this too, because he tells Nina at one point, we both own successful businesses. We can plan this wedding or something. There's no mention of what business she actually owns.
Yeah, that's
never
true.
factored into the plot.
You know, that is so true. That must have been something that had to have hit the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
That had to have been edited out. There had to have been a whole thing about that for him to have said that. Because you would think, had he not said that, you would think that she was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, because it's never mentioned what she does.
I think it's mentioned in the second movie.
Maybe.
Or, like, there's a scene with her, like, in an office. She's, like, a decorator or something, maybe.
I mean, I just took it that, like, if you want to dive all deep into it and go off on a tangent, it's like, this movie is very, not in a bad sense, but it's patriarchal. It's about that male's perspective on, like, quote-unquote, giving up his little girl. So it's like, he is the patriarch of the family, and it's a little bit about him more than anything else. So
it is definitely
his
about
company
him.
is centered and a big part of the family. Like, she has the sneakers in the wedding, which
I think is a really nice touch.
Yes.
I remember when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wear sneakers when I get married, and I did. I wore white Converses, and I had ribbon for the shoelaces, and the ribbon wasn't long enough. It was kind of a struggle. And I didn't try the shoes on until that day, which is stupid, and they barely fit. It was kind of a nightmare. And Josh's shirt didn't fit, and we'll talk about that another day.
But that is, it's part of what this movie is about too. Is nothing goes the way you're expecting it to go.
And that is a life lesson in and of itself. Like, expectations are the ruiner of happiness, and in life in general, but also in small things like this.
Yeah,
like a wedding, which a wedding is not a small thing, but sometimes if brides have too high expectations, it can kind of steal some of their joy.
Absolutely.
Especially when they have really high expectations and don't have a high budget.
Yes. Yes.
Like in this movie, like even in the 90s, like the wedding planner says that it's $250 a person.
Yes.
Which is probably about what it comes to. I guess most people don't think, unless you're talking about catering, I don't necessarily think about weddings per person as far as a cost goes. No. But that is an interesting way of looking at it. Like, I wonder what some of the weddings I've done were per person.
Yeah. That's a weird way to think about it. Unless you're talking about food. I don't understand why it matters as much. But I guess because it is in the hall, they have to bring in so many chairs per person. They have to do all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Which, by the way, they planned this wedding in 6 months.
And it was a very elaborate wedding. Even though it was at their home, that tent scene when they open up.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow. Like that.
I don't know how you, like, people plan their weddings for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you kind of have, like, unless.
So that feels like some.
Again, yeah, definitely. Well, in budget, you can plan a wedding like that in 6 months. You just have to have the money just sitting there.
Yeah.
Because Keenan Daniels, he said to me once, he's a local DJ. He was like, the best reason to have a long engagement is so that you can save for the wedding. Yeah. Like, that's something that I don't think people usually think about. It's like, because if you don't have a long engagement and you don't have the money just sitting around just to throw at this wedding, then you're not going to be able to have the wedding that you could have had you had a little bit more time to save. So
yeah, and also the vendors you want, probably a lot of book a year out and that sort of stuff too.
Yeah,
so that's
especially I feel like oddly DJs book far in advance. Photographers pretty much book far in advance, and venues.
Yeah, because you do engagement sessions and all that with the couples, so you're probably one of the first people.
It usually, the sort of trickle down of weddings, for those who don't know, is most people, you don't have a date until you have a venue.
Yeah.
So the first person is either the venue or the coordinator. Those are the two like first people that you should be looking at booking if you're planning a wedding. Hopefully you're doing both, but a lot of times people will pick a venue first because they don't think they need a coordinator until later down the road and they realize that they do.
Yes.
Um,
Hopefully your coordinator is as entertaining as Frank.
Yes! Oh my god, I don't know of any in town that are that entertaining, of course. But a lot of them are really fun.
Yeah.
And they will save your life. Like,
that's one of the tips I wrote down from this movie is you need a coordinator.
Yeah.
It makes everyone's life.
Which, if you think about the movie, they, like, you know, they're like it's 3 o'clock and they're just like getting ready at the house. Every wedding I've done without a coordinator, the mother and father of the bride do not have the luxury of hanging out at their house with their loved ones. They're decorating, they're delivering things, they're picking people up, they're taking people to and fro. They have jobs.
They're putting out fire after fire after fire. Whereas with the coordinator, that's what their whole job is.
And that's what I feel like parents, especially when they're paying for the wedding, they don't take into. I think one thing that this movie sort of highlights is the emotional journey that a parent goes through when their kid gets married, and recognizing that while this day is not really about you as the parent, it's about your kid. I think you have to recognize the emotional sort of gravity of the fact that it's your child that's getting married, and give yourself the opportunity to enjoy that and be able to have time to really think about and feel that and enjoy every moment of it, because while it's not about you, it's still a part of your journey.
Absolutely.
And if you're really stealing away from yourself as a mother, father of the bride or groom, if you don't have someone to help you, I think a lot of people are all about saving money, but like I said, that's why you have longer engagements.
Like, Aunt Judy do it, and she won't tell people, you know, that no, this is the time this is happening. We're doing it. Like she, you know, because it's family dynamics and stuff, so don't want to cause an argument. Whereas a coordinator will be like, no, this is what is scheduled. This is when we're doing it. This is when we have like videographer, photographer here to do this. We're gonna do it now. Because, you know, it's a, you know, and I get it. Like, I feel like there is sort of a disconnect between the trend of weddings and the thought process of the new millennial generation. And the disconnect is this: people love experiences and they love unique ceremonies that are about the couple. Yeah. And they love, you know, big venues, and they love, you know, they're very image based. You know, that's why photographers are, you know, a huge thing, and there's a lot of them because people want imagery to share and have. It's a very visual generation. But at the same time, you hear a lot of people of that generation talking about, well, we don't want to spend a lot of money on the wedding. Yeah. You know, because that in some way, if you spend a lot of money on the wedding, then you're not getting married for the right reasons, or you're not, you know, there's like a negative connotation to having a big, really expensive wedding within this generation. But the reality is weddings are expensive. Unless you elope, there's no way you're not going to spend a lot of money. Yeah.
And if you try to not spend a lot of money, it won't be what you envision it. If you choose to have $10,000 or less budget for everything, you can have a wedding for that price. It's just not gonna be what you think it's gonna be. It's trying to make it something that it's not. You cannot make a $10,000 wedding look like a $50,000 wedding. Yeah. And trying to do that is frustrating for everyone. Yes. It's frustrating for you, your guests, your vendors. It's frustrating for everyone. Like I like it when brides just own what it is.
It's like, going in, this is gonna be extravagant and and that's what it's going to be.
Or it's not,
yeah.
and it's fun.
Yeah. If it's not, then that is cool too. And I've done plenty of smaller weddings, and they're fun to do when everyone is on the same page about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can't go in and only have spent, $10,000 and expect it to look like a $50,000 wedding. That's just not fair to anybody. But, I mean, that's a huge part of this movie is the whole, like...
That is, I think, like, because there's two main things that George is dealing with in the movie is, quote-unquote, giving up his daughter, which he's not really doing, but whatever. And...
yeah. Which I feel like that's a whole conversation. I think the intention of the movie was fine. I didn't find it particularly misogynistic.
No, and it's not malicious in its intent or anything, but it has a little bit
But you could definitely take it that way.
Yeah.
You could definitely take it under, he feels like he owned her.
And I think that's what, I don't know what the original is, but it seems like maybe that's why they made it such a quick engagement.
Yeah.
Because, they had dated for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden they're engaged, and they never even met him before.
Right.
So I think that plays into it, too.
That's true. Because it's one thing, if she had been dating this guy for a couple of years,
Yeah.
If she'd been dating this guy, she's, 22 in the movie when she gets married?
Yeah.
And if she'd been dating that guy since she was 19, I think... Frank would not have been so freaked out about it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have had to deal with the fact that his daughter is all of a sudden become an adult. It does seem very fast. I think that's part of the shocker of it all. But let's see, what's my favorite moment of the movie? It's anything with Martin Short in it. I just love it. I love it. The mini scene preceding the hot dog scene where they're in the house and he rips his tuxedo and the caterer guy that's just...
That is a complete... Because it's the wedding singer, Eugene Levy cameo.
Yeah.
They're tearing up his house with construction stuff. They're talking about moving out the furniture. It's back to back of everything piling on. That's what it can feel like in a wedding. So that is a microcosm.
But I mean that's true. And that is a good example of often how brides feel leading up, because you kind of plan all of these things separately, and then when it all comes together and it gets closer to the day, it's oh my God, this is a lot.
Yeah. People
don't realize that there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
To a wedding.
It's a machine, and you need those cogs to move smoothly.
Yes. And things come up that you don't expect.
Yeah.
For example, in the movie, snowing in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So I thought that was a great example of things will happen that you don't expect them to happen in a million years. That can happen.
Yeah.
And that's the other role of coordinators, to put out fires.
Yes. That's absolutely a coordinator's whole thing. And weather is a big one of things that can go wrong. Humidity can affect cake and decorations staying on the cake. I've seen that a bunch of times, and all that kind of stuff. And
just the general feeling of your guests.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please, if anybody's listening to this and considering a barn wedding, please make sure in the summer, please make sure they have air conditioning. There actually aren't many of those in our area.
No.
And it's miserable to have a barn wedding in the dead of summer with no air conditioning. It's awful, especially when you cram a bunch of people into
because when you
space.
do a tour and it's just probably you and your fiance and parents or who it's just you and a few people, and you go through. It's this is nice. This will be fun. Take into account the amount of body heat that's going to be in there when you have your 200 guests or whatever coming.
And I always tell people, because in the movie, obviously, it's the opposite problem. It's the cold, which I've had weddings where that was an issue too.
Yeah.
But I feel like more people are more concerned, or there's a bigger issue in the South with the heat.
Yes.
That's a much more common problem. It's just so friggin' hot. And the thing that's frustrating as a photographer, when it's really hot, it's like if you sweat all your makeup off.
Yes.
So that's a thing. And then you're just uncomfortable. And like you don't want to be like, I love to post people in a really romantic, lovey-dovey way where you're really up in each other's face, but you don't want to do that if you're burning up. You do not want your husband to be all over you.
Yeah.
If it's 95 degrees. Like, it's uncomfortable. So, just things to... if people are planning a summer wedding, I think summer weddings are fine. They're pretty. But you gotta have a late... Like, your wedding needs to be late. Like, it needs to be, like,
that's a good
7 p.m. at the earliest. Because, I mean, it needs to be later in the day. You cannot have a 2 o'clock wedding in July in Tennessee.
I've done it. It sucks.
It's awful. I mean, unless it's inside.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pick it in an indoor venue, and that's fine. But, because you're not out there during the ceremony, and, you know, we can do, if you have an indoor venue, we can do the family portraits inside. We can do almost everything inside, and then we'll go outside for... you know, your husband and wife portraits. So you're not outside for that long, so you don't have the opportunity to get miserable.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and things like they had the swans in that lukewarm bath in the movie.
Yeah.
That was cute.
That's cute. And that whole thing, when the snow hits and it's like all hands on deck, everyone working to like fix the problem and get the florist with their
the only reason that worked out is because they had a coordinator, and they had hired so many people to handle things.
Yeah.
If they had done what Frank wanted to do, George. If they had done what George wanted to do, then that would have been awful.
Yeah. Because then it like you just want to have a cookout in the backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just not... That would have been a disaster if they had tried to do that. I thought it was interesting how they played Annie's character in a very, like, it's up to you guys. I've never met a bride like that.
No.
Where she was just very like, oh, it's up to you guys, you know. Another interesting thing was Frank's take. He goes, we put the cock. I can't do an impression. We picked the cook, and the third was the thing at the wedding. And I'm like, I've never heard anyone picking the cake to determine the, like, vibe of the wedding.
No. And they looked at, like, one cake, also.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is it. This is the cake we want. We're going with this one.
And this was before Pinterest, mind you. So she had no idea what she wanted.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go in and have a very specific thing in Pinterest and look at it and be like, that's the thing I want on Pinterest. That's what I want. But
to me, it's like you have a theme, then you pick a cake.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was very
And a lot of people aren't doing cakes anymore.
I've had a wedding with pies.
I've had cookies and milk.
That's a cool
donuts. One. Like, a lot of people are choosing not, because it's not, believe it or not, which this just shocks the shit out of me. But there are people who don't like cakes. Or don't like cake.
Yeah.
They just don't like cake. I'm like, what?
My girlfriend likes pie better than cake, and I don't
That is
understand
the weird, that's a no-go. I'm just kidding. How do you not like cake? It's fluffy and delicious, and there's icing on it. And sugar.
Yeah. I don't know.
I have a sugar addiction, though, so that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I don't understand people who don't like cake. It's yummy. And then, I feel like Frank was he was very, his character was very preoccupied with the cake. Because he wanted to pick the cake first.
Yes.
And then he was he couldn't help George with the car situation because, it's a big moment, the cook's coming out.
Yes.
I'm like, why do you care so much about the cake? Nobody cares that much about the cake.
Also, the car situation, that's another, big thing. That, he was trying to be cheap and only went with 2 parking attendants. Mm-hmm. And then they had to have 10-year-olds
Which, that's a whole nother... Yeah, that was funny. I'm like,
I don't know if that scene's in that movie today. If they, if there's another remake of this...
Oh, the one I watched had it in there.
No, it's in there, but what I'm saying is, if they remade it today,
Oh,
They're
if
not
they
having
would have that in
10-year-olds
there.
driving cars.
It was very. I'm like, how did that go as well as it did? Like, it went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
Like, these kids must have drove before. Like, that's the only
Probably.
thing that I could think of. Yeah, that was interesting. But again, things you don't foresee. But that's something that people don't think about either with venues is how much parking space
Yeah.
they have available. Which there's a lot of companies now, or there's two that I know of that like shuttle companies for weddings. Like I had a wedding in at the Views at Sunset Ridge, and they had, because it's kind of out in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And everyone was drinking and everything. So they actually had a shuttle drive from like downtown Cleveland or from like one of the hotels where some of the guests were staying, and we're like shuttling people to and fro.
Cool.
I've had several weddings that they've done that for, because that was a big concern when Josh and I had we actually eloped, but then when we had our reception, I really wanted a venue that was downtown so that if people wanted to drink, they could safely Uber or taxi or whatever home. Because if you're at some barn way out in Ottawa or way out in Nowheresville, like people can't.
Which is where all the barn venues are.
Yeah, they're out in the middle of nowhere, then people can't. Unless people really carpool and DD effectively, most people are not going to be able to.
Yeah. So if you want it to be a party, that is something you have to think about. Yes.
So you either need to have it somewhere in town or have shuttle buses that'll take people into an area where there will be Ubers.
Yes.
But that was something I thought about. And even like parking, just like making sure that they have enough parking for everyone. Because there's a couple of venues that in town that there's like, the capacity size for the venue itself is much bigger than the amount of parking that they have available.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not sure that they are really being honest with people about that. About the fact that could possibly be an issue. But yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I mean, another note I had, he talks about at the beginning when he's like talking to camera, he talks about the difference between like getting married and a wedding, and I thought that was like a very interesting concept, because you can, like, getting married is just like two people standing together saying I do, but a wedding is this whole big production.
That's true.
And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, it's funny you just said that. The Ted Bundy anniversary and the movie that's coming out about Ted Bundy here. We were watching a documentary about it on TV or Netflix or something, and the lady that was in love with him, like after he was convicted or whatever, in court, he asked her, "Do you want to marry me?" And she said yes. And apparently, because there was a notary republic present and they were in a court, they were legally married. Like, that was a legal...
That was enough to make it a marriage?
That was enough
Wow.
to make it a legal marriage so that they could have conjugal visits. I was like, that is messed up. I mean, everything about Ted Bundy is messed up, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm like, so all you gotta do is, like, be in a courtroom in Texas with a notary public present, and you're married. That's the cheapest way to go.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay. Another note I had was the jail scene after the hot dog scene, when his wife comes to bail him out. To me, that shows what an actual marriage is about. It's not just the wedding. That shows, like, these are people who have been in it for 20 plus years. They know each other so well. Like, she knows that he's even told the guard how much the wedding is costing.
Yeah.
And all like, they just know each other, but she's like, I'm here, I'm gonna bail you out, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. Because marriage is putting up with the other person's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. It's when you're in it for the long haul, it's about putting up with the other person's crazy. And it would be interesting if they did a movie or, like, someone wrote a book from her perspective in this movie.
I do feel I think we need the
commentary.
The mother of the bride. I think it's time.
That would be a good kind of remake.
Or, like, not even like I don't know, because nowadays like a reboot-quel. It's
A
a sequel
reboot-quel.
slash reboot. Like
Yeah.
they did Creed,
Oh yeah.
where it's both. This would be like you do it from Kimberly Williams is now
Mhm.
the mother of a groom or mother of a bride.
Oh,
Like,
that
that's
would be
perfect.
good. That would be perfect.
So I'm putting this out to the
Write
universe.
that.
It needs to happen.
Yeah, it does need to happen.
I feel like, especially with everything being rebooted or in some way,
Yes,
somehow, like, I think
that would
it's
be
perfect.
a really good idea. Isn't she's married to Bradley?
Paisley.
Brad Paisley.
Yes.
Bradley Paisley. Is that his real name? I wonder. Because if his
That's probably when he
parents,
goes by Brad.
yeah, Bradley Paisley. That's a lot of adverb. That's a lot of LYs.
Yes.
I had a thought when you were saying that about. I can't remember what it was. Bradley Paisley. George. Poor George. I do feel bad for him at the end of the day. And then him when they have that fight or whatever. Have you ever had a wedding get called off?
In like several months ahead of time, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had them canceled, but not like day of or anything.
No, I've not had that. Ooh, that would be bad.
I've had a groom just get in his truck and drive away for an hour to clear, like, calm down.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I would freak out. Like, and I wouldn't freak out in front of the
Everyone
client.
else was. The bride was like, he'll be back. It's okay.
Like,
I know
she
him.
just knew that he would.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That
She was
gives-
the only one not freaking out about it. But
like,
I was like,
he's
okay,
fine.
well then
He
these
just
people are
needs
meant
a
to
little-
be.
Yeah,
If she's
yeah, for
this
real.
calm about it, then yeah.
That would, but in my mind, I would be like, oh my god, like I would not freak out in front of the client because when I'm on a wedding day, I try to be Mrs. Positivity.
Yeah.
Like even if the walls are falling down around us, I'm gonna be like, you know what, everything's fine. You're gonna get married at the end of the day. It's gonna be beautiful.
That's all that. Yeah.
You're gonna have great photos. Everything's gonna be great. You know, I'm Mrs. Positivity, even if in my mind I'm going, this is a disaster. Like, even if in my mind I'm like, this is awful. Like, I will never ever let a client or a guest ever know that that's what's actually, which that is a skill I have had to hone because it is difficult for me to hide my feelings. But I have learned over the years how to do it.
Yeah.
It's a good movie, though.
Yeah. It also explores a lot, I think, the idea of in-laws, because they, like, go and... Which, by the way, he talks about how fancy and crazy the Brian's parents' house is. Their house, to begin with, is bigger than mine. Like,
especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like, that was an
very
interesting
It's like
touch.
the
I don't know.
upper middle class feels ashamed when they meet up with the very upper class.
Yeah. Feels inadequate. It's like, you run a successful
First world
business.
problems.
Yeah, first world. And I almost felt like that was like an LA skew.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's a little subtly like I can't think of the word. I'm trying to think of. But there's a lot of subtle humor like that in there, mixed with the over the top humor of Martin Short and that sort of stuff. It's a good mix of both.
yeah, it's a feel good. It's a great rom-com, but it's not really romantic.
It's perfectly delightful.
It's perfectly delightful. That sounds like something out of a
like it's just,
movie poster.
Yeah. But it is one of those things where it's just like you can put it on and it's low stakes and you're just gonna enjoy it and be with these characters.
Well, that's kind of how I like. That's why I like comedies.
Yeah.
The best, probably, because when I watch a movie, I like to be I either want to be just happy, feel good most of the movie, or I want to be transported to a completely different world. Like, I think that's why I like fantasy. But I just don't like I don't like scary movies. I don't know. I used to like a lot of different things, but as I've gotten older, I've just kind of honed in on the things that I do like. And I tend to stick with that.
I think that's all the notes I have. So do we want to... Alright, first let's rate the wedding.
Oh. Well, I remember what I was going to say now. The lighting in this movie was something that struck me. Like, there's this one... It's a very, like, not even an epic scene of any shape, way, or form.
Yeah.
But when they were walking to the wedding coordinator's office, they're walking down the street. But the lighting in that scene is beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful and dreamy and romantic.
It's great cinematography. Yeah, through the whole thing.
But I was like, this is like a nothing scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not an super important scene. It's actually a very business-like scene. Like, he's like, let me do the talking girls.
Yeah.
But the lighting, it was like clearly shot at golden hour.
Yeah.
And the lighting in the wedding was really pretty as well. Like, the ceremony.
Oh, yeah. That was another thing, because it was a church wedding.
Yeah.
Which I have only done one.
They're so uncommon now.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Which
I feel like
is part of, I think, another generational thing. Like, the studies have shown people do not go to churches. Like, people don't have home churches anymore. Right. Like, I think the reason a lot of brides got married in churches in the first place was previous generations were more religious, first of all. And second of all, even if you weren't religious, you had like a home church that you kind of grew up in, that you always sort of envisioned yourself getting married in. And people don't really have that anymore.
And the pastor from that church was going to be who married you.
Yeah.
So just do it there.
Yeah. And people just don't really, like, church attendance is down. Like, even in our area, which is boldly Bible Belt.
Yeah.
I don't particularly want to get into the, like, whole religious political thing or anything, but it is an interesting observation about everyone wants to get married outside.
Yes.
Which,
another tip, when you do that, make sure you have a place to go in case it rains.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you have a good backup plan.
Yeah.
Not just a backup plan. Not just, we'll go under this tree or pavilion or something that you're going to hate. Make sure it's a good plan that you actually would not mind happening. Because the last thing you want to do is be stressed out the whole week before your wedding and just making yourself worried to death about the rain.
Yeah. Or just on the day of just constantly checking radar and all that stuff.
And I tell people, I'm like, honestly, and this is just from doing photography in general, because, I don't just do weddings, I do a lot of other things, and I don't really worry about the rain until about 24 to 48 hours before.
Yeah.
Because especially if it's like an engagement session or something, the forecast is not accurate for the 1 to 2 hours that we're going to be shooting until the day before, 2 days before.
And even on the day, it can be not right. Like, I had a wedding where it was like, it was cloudy and it was overcast and we were worried about it, but the wedding was supposed to start at 4. Everyone was checking radar and it showed nothing was supposed to start. Like, it wasn't supposed to start raining until 6. So we're like, okay, we're good. We're clear. We'll go ahead and do it outside. 2 sets of bridesmaids and grooms got down the aisle, and the bottom fell out. And then everyone's just running, rushing.
See, and that's the other thing. If it's calling for rain like the week before, leave some room in the budget for umbrellas.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind it. Like, in my head, if I was going to get married outside somewhere and maybe the location that I really wanted didn't have a good backup plan, if you just have a bunch of clear, like, order just however many guests you have, order that many clear umbrellas.
I've done some really cool stuff with the clear umbrellas. Like, I had one that was, the wedding was under a pavilion, but then we were doing some stuff afterwards outside. And it was a little drizzly. It wasn't too bad. But they were like messing around playing with the umbrellas and spinning them and stuff. And it was really cute.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
So that's my recommendation. I think I'm going to put that in. I send all my clients like a crap ton of information. Just like how to prep and just a bunch of information about wedding stuff, all the things that I've learned, so that they can be educated about it. And I think I might add that, worried about rain, order 100 umbrellas. Like, I mean, that's really the best way to as long as it's not cold. When it's cold and raining, you really just need to pick an indoor venue. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna get married in the fall outside, you need an indoor backup plan.
Yeah.
Anyway. Y'all can't see this, but Max and Shooter are happily asleep.
We put them to sleep. We're that boring.
You know, we hate this movie. There's no dogs in it except for that one scene. Shooter barks at dogs on the TV. Max,
that's cute.
He'll bark at a dog on the TV, and Max doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, Max can't, he just doesn't see them. Like, I've read somewhere that dogs have trouble, most dogs have trouble seeing two-dimensionally. Mm-hmm. So a TV is two-dimensional to a dog. And so they, some dogs can differentiate
what's going on.
So Shooter can and Max can't. So Shooter will start barking at something on TV, and Max is like, what is it? Where? What? Huh? Where? It's really cute. Hey, buddy. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, so we want to rate the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
We tried to do that a minute ago. Yeah. On a scale, I mean, I give the wedding I give it I gotta deduct points for the parking situation.
Fair, yeah. When the cops get called, you lose points.
Yeah. I would give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay.
I'd give it 8 swans out of 10 cars.
Alright, yeah. And, okay, what would you rate the movie? I wrote down 8.5.
I think I agree with that.
8.5 navy blue tuxedos.
Navy blue tuxedos. I forgot about that little detail, but that's great.
Yeah. Okay, so plugs. I'm Cameron Grimsley, longviewproductions.net, at longviewpro, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That's my stuff.
SarahLarayPhotography.com. Everything should be, we'll link everything in there so I don't have to spell it. Yeah. That was awkward last time.
Just check the descriptions.
Yeah, check the descriptions. My Instagram is Sarah Larry Photo. Follow me on Instagram. Share with your friends. Check my Insta stories. I post a lot of dog videos.
And rate, review, and subscribe.
Rate, review, and subscribe. Please. And email us constructive criticism.
Oh, yeah. And next episode is I Love You, Man.
Which is one of my all-time faves. If you have not watched it, please go out and watch it. And then you'll know what will... There are so many inside jokes.
I quote all the time.
Nearly every day. Like, Josh and I will quote that. Like, when I get out of the car, when he drops me off at work, I'll see you then, or I'll see you on another time.